Cyrodiil, the very heart of the Empire within the Elder Scrolls universe. There's so much I can say about this part of the world. This scenery is so calming and tranquil and quaint. In terms of its environment alone, its flora, its landscapes, and even most of its wildlife, it's the closest to our world the planet of Nirn has ever gotten. It's a world so grounded, so steeped within our own past, which is kind of why Cyrodiil is kind of the most boring province of Tamerial. Perhaps this is why the Elder Scrolls 4 isn't called Cyrodiil, but is instead called Oblivion. The events that transpire would become known as the Oblivion Crisis, and the forces of the Daedra now freely roam the land.
For 65 years I have ruled this empire. Generals and kings have knelt at my command. But a darkness comes. The blood tide rises. These are the closing days of the Third Era, and the final hours of my life. Find him and close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
Hello, dear viewers. What is hell? I'm asking you, what is hell? Is it a state of mind? Is it a real place? I really don't know. I believe it's a real place. I think it can be both. We can make our own hell within our own mind. We can live our own hell through the places, through the things we do. And there is a hell. I started asking myself that question when I was doing this piece. In fact, I did it because of the events of the past few days and last week. If you didn't know, my mother was taken to the hospital. She had a stroke. This revelation has affected so many people, not just her, family members, myself included, friends, those who know and love her. For something like this to happen to her was truly horrifying. I thought I knew what hell was, but it only dawned on me when I came to the realization, or the very real possibility, that I could have lost my mother. And what life would be like without her. I always would say that she is the Theo to my Vincent. She is the best person I've ever known. And to live a second without her in it is hell. I never really realized how much I relied on her, not just for like food or shelter, whatnot, but to be sort of a rock, to be an anchor in my life, to be someone that let me have limits, who told me it was time to come home. And to be without those limits now, I'm constantly second guessing myself and doing a double take whenever something happens, or whenever I do something, and asking myself if what I'm doing is right, if I'm doing this because I want to, or if it's because I have the opportunity to, because she can't stop me. Is that hell? Granted, my mother is recovering, but is going to be a long process. So any thoughts and prayers you can give her, I will deeply appreciate. Back to the point of and topic of hell. When you think of hell in the modern day sense, you think of the fire, you think of the brimstone, you think of the sulfur, you think of the heat, the agonizing heat, the pain, the torture, and it's all here. Almost to a cartoonish level, but not to the point where it becomes straight up satire. It's still very much its own place. For whatever reason, I keep thinking of that one segment from Fantasia, Night on Balder Mountain, which is easily one of the most horrifying cartoons that I've ever seen. It does carry this otherworldly, demonic presence, despite it being almost like a complete tonal and visual contrast to what we see here in the Deadlands. Baldur's Mountain is a lot more cool, it's a lot more calm, but also deathly in its tones. You see a lot more blues and purples and greens, grays and blacks that are typically more depressing, but it also carries with it being a nighttime animation. But it's still very much a horrifying experience, and I feel that it wouldn't feel that far out of place in this reality, in the Oblivion worlds, the Elder Scrolls. The Deadlands is definitely, I feel, more civilized than hell itself. It has its own cities, I guess you could say. It even has a capital city, which prior to doing this video, I didn't know that. I just thought it was a barren volcanic wasteland. I'm not even sure this is actual magma or lava. The rules, the laws of nature that exist within these planes of Oblivion, they're not bound by our understandings. And whatever the great Mehrunes Dagon wanted, or however he wanted this world to function, you can be damn sure that it's going to work the way he wants it. He created it, he can do whatever the hell he wants with it, no pun intended. So I wanted to capture that heat. I wanted to capture that sulfur and that brimstone, to give it that inescapable stench, that rot that only comes with the very pits, the very core of pure evil, pure destruction, annihilation. This sweltering inferno that exists beyond our own understanding. So every color I used had to convey the idea of heat. And not just, oh, it's Florida heat. I meant an unnatural heat, an inescapable, permeable temperature that you just cannot escape. You can strip all your clothes off and it will sear you to the bone. To reflect the intensity of the world, the glow and the radiance of the rivers of lava, and how they reflect upon the jagged rocks and cliff faces, the terrain permanently coated in layers upon layers of ash and soot. The sky is without any hint of a day or night cycle. So thick is the atmosphere with the turbulence of hell that light may not reach its surface. I spared no reds, no oranges, pinks, violets, yellows in creating this composition. These paints have legions of options to choose from. The Deadlands is a million shades of hell, compressed and compacted within each and every step one takes within this plane. A world crafted and molded by its architect and overlord, by divine or Daedric right, Mehrunes Dagon. And if his plane of existence, his slice of Oblivion, are Elder Scrolls equivalent to hell itself, then Dagon would be the devil. There's something very Renaissance, very Hieronymus Bosch about the various planes of Oblivion. Bosch is known for his unique interpretations and depictions of hell, how mankind's indulgences into the vices, desires, and fears will ultimately lead anyone into the darkest depths of the void. The surreal and otherworldly imagery of pure batshit insane horror seen in Bosch's work would seem oddly in line with some of the maniacal and demented visions of some of the Daedric pantheons, which I can tell you we will be visiting soon. I'm not saying that Hieronymus is the inspiration for Oblivion, nor are the paintings or other artworks of the time. Bethesda has made it clear where they get their inspiration for this world. But when I look at this aspect of the world, this fragment, I just can't help but see, its roots. These paintings, these artworks, they helped shape our understanding, our perception of what hell would look like. And it has withstood the test of time for over centuries now. And this is how I wanted to approach this painting. It's through this lens and understanding of the realm and where its inspirations came from. These Daedric keeps, these fortresses, citadels, or spires, whatever you want to call them, their presence looming in the background, comprised of sickening curves, wicked angles, and sharp, hooked protrusions. They almost resemble something like a mace, a weapon designed to end lives in a single brutal swing. The barbs or horns protruding from all sides of this metaphorical mace, likely now lodged in the cranium of some poor soul. Ominous at a distance, but up close would be a psychological nightmare. For up close does one truly gain a sense of the scale, the magnitude of the Deadlands. The land itself seems more like a wasteland than anything habitable. The soil would likely be rich with soot, ash, and other such airborne debris having descended upon the land. And in a world seemingly devoid of a sun and of soil, one would be forgiven for expecting this realm to be incapable of sustaining any form of plant life or flora. But in my decades spent with the Elder Scrolls, I have learned to leave such expectations at the gate. It is these depictions that separate Oblivion from being just another depiction or reimagining of hell. For this world, this realm, was actually meant to sustain life. Where we might see a place of damnation, others might see it as their domain, their home. And on a side note, in the game there are 7 randomized variations of the Deadlands, and, well, how many levels or circles are there in hell? Well, according to the Divine Comedy, 7. Oblivion was one of the first games that I ever got for myself. I still have it. In fact, Elder Scrolls Oblivion was the first game I ever got for the Xbox 360. Despite the fact that the console no longer works, memory card has long since given out, the hard drive continues to crash, the game is still there. It's in my room. I can't undermine how much the Elder Scrolls means to me. I've said before, and I'll continue to say it more and more till my dying day. The Elder Scrolls have always been a part of my life, and a critical one at that, because it's helped me understand more about what goes into a world than any other fiction out there. It's more than just the rule of cool or make something that looks neat. You have to make it believable. You have to make it sustainable. But you also have to make it feel alive. I feel Oblivion takes a lot of cues and inspiration from our understanding of the Christian afterlife and the location of eternal damnation in the lake of fire and whatnot, because this place actually has lakes of fire, rivers of fire, puddles, streams, creeks of fire, but it isn't hell, no matter how much it looks like it. Now, hell is something more personal, because what's torturous for one person might not be the same for everyone else. But what do you, dear viewers, think? Do you like this piece? Are there any particular worlds you would like me to dive into? I'm familiar with the Elder Scrolls, as you know. I'm also familiar with Fallout, Halo. I have something in the works for Mirror's Edge. I've worked with Resident Evil once. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Did you enjoy this piece? Please let me know. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.